I jumped back into the high rail, demounted from the rails and crawled north on the frontage, hazards redefining festive. The curve at Edgewater wears a view in daylight tourists pay to photograph. At night in rain it wears consequences. I braked at the pullout, sloshed through a ditch that had become poetry about gravity, and shined my headlamp into a frame of ballast and ties that looked okay from here. But water had a grin. The shoulder beyond the ties had slumped like a tired man's posture. Dispatch. Pike Edgewater curve. Shoulder sloughing beyond tie ends. Crib holding for now. No visible daylight under ties, but we need eyes in daylight and rock by the truckload. No movements remains my love language. Copy, Pike, dispatch said. We're holding. Geotech will bless at first light. Thank you for being a romantic. It's the weather, I said. It writes me sonnets. Back at the upper lot, Malik was distributing warmers like a magician doing close-up magic of the ethical variety. A WSF paramedic rolled a gurney in with a man whose cough had decided to audition for the lead. Malik fell in step beside them, O2, auscultation. Words you wish you never had to learn becoming comfort in a sentence. He glanced up and saw me. Something in his shoulders filed relief and then got back to work. You okay? He said when his hands were free enough to be conversational. I keep being, I said. Me too, he said. His mouth made a bracket of thank you without burning the syllables. A ferry deckhand jogged up with the word that cuts a lot of sentences short. Child. He pointed to a sedan idling near the ramp. Inside, a toddler whose lips wanted the wrong color. The mom's hands were far on the wheel. Her eyes were very near. Malik moved quick without fast. He tapped the window, voice even. Hi, I'm Malik. He's working hard to breathe. We're going to help him. The mom nodded mostly to herself. He swung the door open, took the toddler into his own arms like it's allowed to be practiced. Not panic. Aaron, he said. I've got the O2. The tank had grown heavier since the last time I lifted it. Or maybe the night had cannula too small. He switched to mask, set the flow, rechecked color. The kid blinked, coughed, reeled in a breath with a sound that will visit me when the rain does. Croup, likely plus cold air and wet, he said under his breath. Steam helps. We don't have a shower. We'll make one. He handed the mask to the mom. You're doing great. Small breaths with him. In through nose, out quietly. Count with me. 1, 2. Good. He turned to me. Hot water? He asked, and then made his own answer. Coffee urns, tents, blankets. We'll build warm humidity like we mean it. We built steam with coffee and blankets and the sort of stubborn kindness the Pacific Northwest uses the days it decides to be itself. The kid's color bargained its way to better. The mom's hands remembered near. You okay? He asked her. She did what a lot of people do when asked that directly by someone. Who will accept the real answer? She cried for 5 seconds, then exhaled, then said, yes. He nodded like yes is a work in progress. Wait, don't miss this detail. The upper lot had grown into a town. A Mukilteo police officer handed out socks from his trunk like Santa on a budget. A barista from a shop that had lost power brought a tray of day-olds and the hushed apology of pastry you still want. 2 teenagers organized charging stations on a power strip that belonged to a ferry worker's camper van. They ran it like club bouncers with moral clarity, emergency calls first. A retired teacher set up a table with paper and crayons and told kids to draw the biggest fish they could imagine. The fish grew teeth and wings. The kids found the edges of their fear and drew around them. I found myself standing next to Malik under the edge of the terminal awning, both of us not touching in the way people don't until they do. Salt air, diesel, wet wool, a guitar someone had the nerve to tune in the rain. He smelled like alcohol swabs and cinnamon gum and scrub top that had learned to love jackets. The hill going to behave? He asked. Hills don't behave, I said. They negotiate. We back out of the room and let the experts make promises in the morning. He smiled because that sounded like his job. 2. I thought we'd mapped the night, but the sound kept a coda for the track and a curve for the heart. Geotech texted. New slip reported south of Olympic Beach. Keep track called dead. Wait for first light. Nice job on protecting. I replied with a thumbs up and a picture of my shunt because sometimes stickers help the math. County Ops asked for status. I gave them warm and breathing and dry enough, which translates into worth it. WSF announced a modified sailing at 0430 for medical and work crews only. The upper lot gave a tiny cheer like people who know not to spend hope too fast. We moved through the hours in loops check. Tap, breathe, choke, tiny, repeat. At one point the rain declined from sheets to confessions. The sound made that soft hiss it makes when it remembers it's beautiful and can be responsible at the same time. It was during one of those quiet loops that Malik asked me, not on the radio, not for the record, when did you start hearing track like it's a voice? 12, I said. My dad worked bridges in buildings. He'd bring me out to interlockings at night when he had permission. I learned what a relay sounds like when it's bored and when it's lonely. They're different. You? 9, he said. My aunt kept oxygen in her living room and told me breathing is a habit you have to defend. I learned to count respirations before I learned to count money. We looked at the upper lot like it was a patient we had both taken a shift on. He turned toward me just enough that the inch between shoulders felt like a future if we didn't scare it. He did not touch me. He did not have to. He asked the ritual question again because rituals are scaffolding for new rooms. You okay? I keep being, I said. Me too. A state patrol sergeant walked up with the face of a man deciding whether to be a messenger or a wall. Asterisk, we've got reports of trespassers trying to walk the main south of Edmonds for photos. Social says epic. He frowned like Instagram is a weather pattern. We need eyes. I'm your non-rail scout, I said. No fouling. I'll bark like a dog and stay behind the fence. Take this then, he said, handing me a megaphone that looked like a mistake and a challenge. I rolled south with hazards interrogating puddles. At the public access near Brackett's Landing, 2 figures in dark hoodies had the posture of people who will argue with physics if sufficiently caffeinated. I clicked the megaphone and found the button that adds authority to politeness. Hey friends, not tonight. Slide, washout potential, track is protected. Photo you want is free in daylight from the beach when the county says you can have it. Tonight the hills are working overtime. So am I. They recognized so am I as the password between strangers who have jobs. They slunk away, stopping only to take a photo of the sign that says nitrogen monoxide trespassing because irony is a vitamin dot by the time I got back to Mukilteo. The upper lot had become doable. Kids slept in hats too big for them. Adults wore the face people wear when tomorrow might agree to exist. Malik sat on a milk crate, elbows on knees, eyes open in the way people keep eyes open when they're too tired to trust lids. I leaned against the post next to him, not touching, sharing weather. He looked at me like a person who has decided to believe in luck if it wears boots and brings coffee. We held it. He said, it held us, I said. He smiled, small and true. Then he did the thing I hadn't let myself plan for. He let his forehead rest against mine for one, measured BPG-13 inventory. An Amon whispered in a language both our jobs speak. A terminal camera under the eave pivoted with a small electric curiosity that felt like a wink. 2 days later, at snowco_PW posted a recap. Cones at Dayton, excavators at Edgewater. A geotech pointing at soil like a professor, explaining a misbehaving sentence, a map of closures and repairs. The last slide was a grainy CCTV still from the Mukilteo ferry upper lot. 2 small figures under a terminal awning. One in a rain shell with a BNSF hard hat clipped to his belt. One in navy scrubs under a jacket, foreheads inclined for a beat. The caption read, small, honest, enough. Malik texted the link and then, after a pause that carried both torque and mercy, dinner? Always, I wrote. Good, he said, because I am. We ate salmon bowls and naan at a tiny place off Colby Avenue that survives on soup and stubbornness. He told me about A nights when the waiting room is a weather report. About doses people get wrong and how you fix it without shame. About the way children breathe when you make a tent of a towel and a pot of hot water. I told him about shoulder slumps, crib washouts, ballast that needs rock like lungs need air. And what it sounds like when a welded rail cools at 3 a.m. and decides not to be a problem. We didn't pick a schedule. We made a rule. When the NWS says atmospheric river, we text here. When the geotech says watch the hill, we text me too. He keeps a spare pulse ox in my glove box because he won't apologize for being himself. I keep a Sharpie in his bag because I'm superstitious about labels. Sometimes, the safest place isn't behind a seawall or at the end of a permit. Sometimes it's the inch between 2 foreheads under a ferry awning while the sound reconsiders gravity. Sometimes it's a voice on county ops that says your name like a handhold. I'm here. I tell him when the hillside clears its throat again. Me too, he says. In Puget Sound. Gray, generous, and heavy with weather and neighborliness. Let's us try again. Slide rule mercy. The night the sound through the hillside let go like a zipper. My high rail shuddered in a spray of clay. And a voice on County Ops, one I didn't know yet, said my name like a handhold. Aaron, do not foul the main. Bring them to the Mukilteo ferry upper lot. I'll have warmers and O2 now. My name is Aaron Pike, 29. Track inspector for the corridor that threads Puget Sound like a careful seam from Seattle up through Edmonds and Mukilteo to Everett and beyond. My office is a high rail Ford that smells like ballast dust, rain gear, and coffee I keep promising to throw out and then don't. My tools are gauge bars, hammer, skates, quibbing, and the kind of patience you learn by listening to steel and weather that has opinions. Folks around here say atmospheric river, like a neighbor's last name. In late November, it came in a long gray sentence, more comma than period, from the Pacific to our cedars and bluffs. The Sounder commuter runs had been cautious all day. BNSF dispatch pushed slow orders through the vulnerable curves, and I spent daylight knocking on tie plates with my hammer and telling myself the tone was right. By 8:10 p.m. The rain had upgraded from insistence to personality. County Ops put a slide watch on the coastal miles where bluffs pretend to be reliable. Geotech pinged me. Pore pressure's high. If the hill blinks at you, don't be brave. 10 minutes later, the hill blinked. I was in the Edmonds cut just south of the ferry terminal, when the shelf above the track slid, not the dramatic landslides TV uses for B-roll, but a fat bad shrug of clay, root ball, and fist-sized rock that decided to live on the ballast for a while. My high rail took it like a shoulder check. I braked, grabbed the radio, and called it like procedure taught me. BNSF North Dispatcher. Track Inspector Pike, milepost 17.3, slide on the main. Foul track. Stop movements Edmonds Mukilteo, until inspection. Probable mud and debris covering both rails. I'm protecting. Dispatch did the calm voice that lets blood pressure feel seen. Copy, protecting. Amtrak 509 is at King Street holding. Sounder 1936 is at Everett platform. No movements, your limits. The county patch clicked in with a new voice, clear and warm, like fluency learned in crowded rooms. Track Inspector Pike? This is Malik Rahman, a nurse with Providence Regional Everett. I'm riding with Snohomish County Ops tonight as shelter liaison. Edmonds waterfront has walkers soaked and ferry is stacking people in the upper lot while WSF reconfigures. If you intercept any stranded rail fans, dog walkers, commuters, bring them uphill to Mukilteo ferry upper. I'll stage blankets, warmers, and oxygen. Do not foul the main. He said my name like a handhold. Not a command, a place to put my weight. Copy, Malik, I said, surprised at how quickly his first name tasted right. I'll flag both ends and start shunting to mark the track occupied. I've got a family of 3 at Dayton Street Walkway eyeballing Instagram like it's Wuthering Heights. Guide them now, he said. Upper lot. I'll be there in 10 if the road keeps its promises. But the truly shocking part hadn't happened yet. I set red fusees in the mist and walked the debris a yard-deep tongue of mud, roots like veins, a garbage can lid that had learned to travel. The rail felt cold but true under my palm. I threw shunts across the bond wires so dispatch would see a track occupancy, and no engineer would mistake my body for a small obstruction. A Sounder passenger couple and a kid with a Minecraft beanie stood where the public path meets the fence. The kind of caution that wants permission. I became permission. Hey folks, this way. Up to Maine, then over to Mukilteo ferry upper. County has warmers. Ferry lot is dry, shelter in place. The dad looked past me at the slide like a man measuring something he can't fix. Is it safe? It's safer up and away, I said. I've got the main protected. We'll let the hill finish its sentence. Without us. They went because my voice made a bridge, and because parents like maps. I wrote the notification in my log with hands that pretend water doesn't make ink honest. County Ops updated the public channel. Landslide near Edmonds waterfront. Boyd Dayton shelter staging Mukilteo ferry upper. I thought mud and procedure would be the whole story, but the sound writes subplots in salt air, and the night bent toward breath. I climbed into the high rail and called Malik on the patch. I've got 3 ascending from Dayton. More walkers behind them. Slide is contained for the moment. I'll sweep north toward Hewitt to intercept anyone stubborn. Copy. he said. I'm 2 minutes from upper. I'll find a corner for asthma and wet lungs. Tonight makes bronchi dramatic. Bring me anyone who argues with wind. I drove cautious along the service road, wipers working hard enough to become co-workers. Tide slashed at the bulkhead. Logs made honest attempts to be back scratches for the bluff. A rail fan with a camera, the size of a philosophy problem, lurked by the fence. Lens capped. Soul damp. We're done for the night, friend, I said. Slide south. Track occupied. Upper lot has coffee if the generator behaves. He nodded with the wounded dignity of a thwarted hobbyist and headed uphill. At Mukilteo ferry. The upper lot was a constellation of reflective vests. WSF had boats on altered plan. State Patrol waved people into lanes with the gentleness of wolves who have decided to become sheepdogs for a while. Malik stood near a folding table that had become a clinic warmers. Blankets, 202 tanks, ABVM still in plastic, a roll of triage tape he hoped not to use. He wore navy scrubs under a rain shell, beard trim, eyes that read rooms for a living. His badge on a lanyard told strangers 2 facts and 1 promise. Providence RN, emergency. Here. Up close. He was early 30s, Pakistani-American. One ear cuffed with a small ring that glinted like a line drawn under a true answer. He looked at me the way competent looks at competent. Appreciative, not impressed. Aaron? Malik. We shook with damp hands and skipped small talk. The rain had used our allotment. He handed me hand warmers like altar bread. You get the stubborn, he said. I'll get the breathing. I'm good at stubborn, I said. I speak railfan and dad. He smiled with half his face, the other half saving energy for nurse's math. I'll ask you the question we'll keep asking. You okay? I keep being, I said before I could help it. Me too, he said. Like a ritual we'd inherited. Cliffhanger. A woman in a wet puffer stumbled past the ferry sign with a wheeze that made phrases. The kid in the beanie pointed and said, Grandma, with a syllable. I didn't want to hear again tonight. Malik caught them the way water catches shape. Hi, I'm Malik. Sit here. Aaron, can you lift the cooler so I can free the O2? He slid a pulse ox on the woman's finger, frowned at 89%, and moved with a speed you don't notice until you choose to admire it. Cannula on, dial to 2 LPM, in through nose, out slow. He looked at the kid. You did right to bring her up. The boy nodded as if permission had been retrospectively granted. How's your track? Malik asked over his shoulder. Dead for movement. Alive for gravity, I said. The bluff wants to talk more. We'll let it finish alone. Good, it would be rude to interrupt. He winked at the grandma. She smiled around the cannula like a person with better timing than her lungs. Wait, don't miss this detail. A WSF deckhand hustled up with cardboard boxes of coffee like the keepers of civilization. State Patrol brought Malar blankets that make everyone look like thoughtful burritos. A teen with a skateboard offered his hoodie to a toddler with the dignity that makes you forgive TikTok for all its sins. Snohomish County Payoff posted, if you are at Edmonds waterfront, please move up to Mukilteo ferry upper. If you are warm and dry, consider bringing socks and hats. In the time it took to wrap 1 grandma and triage 3 coughs, the upper lot bloomed hats like a pop-up store you trust. I took a lap to intercept stubborn. A man who did not want to be told where to stand started to deliver a lecture to thin air about freedom. I offered him the most American thing, a job. We need someone to hand warmers and say you're doing great to anyone under 12. He accepted the job with the seriousness of a temporary god. An 8-year-old thanked him with the open gratitude adults spend money to relearn. Sounder conductor I knew from Everett hustled up. Hey, Pike crew from 1936 brought 3 who don't like crowds. We gave them a bench and quiet. Your slide reached the second main? Only the west, I said, but we'll treat both like mad until the geotech blesses the dirt with Latin. He snorted. Amen, thanks for protecting. Operator texted, not my day to be a submarine. We both laughed because humor makes stubborn weather less personal. I thought keeping folks warm was the work, but the sound loves second acts. And the next call dragged my job and his into the same sentence. County ops again. Possible washout near Edgewater Park, standing water undercutting outside of curve. Do not foul track. Patrol en route with flares. SFFD mutual aid moving a med unit across to upper prepare for transfer. Edgewater is my mile, I said. I'll make eyes from the roadside, no high rail on wayside without a geotech marriage license. Copy, Malik said. I'll keep breathing in a circle you can re-enter.